Jerry's been awesome. Chris DeMarco's been fantastic. Like there's a concerted effort to remind these guys every day that if you want to be a contender, you got to be great defensively, and we want to be great. We know the competition's about to get harder this week, so it'll be a good test for us.
So that was Steve Kerr talking about the defensive improvements, which, by the way, can be attributed to their new coaches on the coaching staff, and one, Jerry Stackhouse, and of course, as he mentioned there, Chris DeMarco, who's also based here in Marin County, has done a fantastic job for the Warriors on the defensive side of the ball. On today's NBA Rundown, we are going to talk about why this particular Golden State Warrior team is actually playing as well as they are. They are 6-1, and Steph Curry has missed 3 games already with an ankle injury. That is the topic on the big show today. New to the channel, please go and subscribe, and of course, like this video. I swear, watching Steve Kerr give press conferences every once in a while, I expect him to say, "Watch me pull a rabbit out of this hat." Steve Kerr has done more with a lot of players on this roster than I think I've ever seen him do as the head coach of this particular Golden State Warriors team. He has actually gone to a strategy which involves, wait for it, playing at least 12 players a game. Who else in the NBA that is a legitimate contender is even coming remotely close to that strategy? Look, a lot of the teams don't even have 12 players that they would feel comfortable playing every single game. We will get into that, but I wanted to begin tonight with the actual defense. Now, the Golden State Warriors currently, after just 6 games or 7 games to this point, are currently second in the National Basketball Association when it comes to scoring defense. They're allowing 104 points a game. Now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are actually allowing 95.9 points a game, and they're first. But for this Warriors team to actually be sitting there second there, and then on the offensive side of the ball, they're the 3rd highest ranked offense in the NBA at this point, goes a lot to what Steve Kerr has actually been talking about recently. As Steve Kerr has mentioned on numerous occasions over the past couple weeks that this is the deepest Warriors roster he's ever coached, which is really hard to believe when you think about all of the other great Warriors teams that he's actually had. Now I'm going to play some more of a clip from Steve Kerr, and then I'm back with some final thoughts.
Number one thing in defense is always personnel. You know, it's scheme is overrated. What I would say is that our guys, number one, we are better able to stay in front of the ball this year. And because of that, we're not having to get into rotations, and we're just putting ourselves in better shape each possession. With that said, guys are playing really hard, and our defensive coaches are doing a great job of preparing them. Jerry's been awesome. Chris DeMarco's been fantastic. Like there's a concerted effort to remind these guys every day that if you want to be a contender, you got to be great defensively, and we want to be great. We know the competition's about to get harder this week, so it'll be a good test for us.
So I can tell you, over the years, being based up here in the Bay Area, I've heard Steve Kerr talk about defense and how important it is time after time, and I can tell you that over the last couple years, the team has actually lost sight of the importance of defense. Now, bringing in Jerry Stackhouse, having him work with Chris DeMarco, who is also a defensive specialist, has made a significant difference. It certainly doesn't also hurt to have Terry Stotts on his coaching staff as well, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Once again, second in defense, 3rd in offense through 7 games. They are also playing, as I mentioned, 12 players per game. Like when you actually take a look at this Warriors roster, and I'm just going to take a look at what they've done to this point. Now, we know the addition of Buddy Hield has been absolutely huge for this Warrior team. You have Buddy Hield, you have Steph Curry, you have Wiggins, who is actually playing pretty good and actually averaging just under 16 points a game. Jonathan Kuminga coming off of the bench. Moses Moody on and off of the bench. Trace Jackson Davis, Brandon Pazinski, Draymond Green, Lindy Waters, Kayvon Looney, Kyle Anderson, and Gary Payton II have all played in every single game, of course, with the exception of Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins, who had a late start to the season. Still, when you look at this Warriors roster as a whole, those names I just mentioned shouldn't scare anybody. Of course, Steph Curry and maybe a little bit of Buddy Hield splashed with some Draymond Green might scare some people, but Lindy Waters? Like, he was driving for, I think, Postmates like 3 years ago. Draymond Green, we know, is skiing down the backside of Career Mountain at this point. We know Jonathan Kuminga has lived in Steve Kerr's doghouse. Andrew Wiggins has historically, over the last 2 years, been a shell of his former self. And yet, this team is playing extremely well. And the strategy certainly is one of the reasons. But I will make this very, very simple. I think the addition of Terry Stotts on the offensive side of the court from a coaching perspective and Jerry Stackhouse with Chris DeMarco on the defensive side has made an absolutely huge difference for this Warriors team to this point. Now, things are about to get extremely difficult for the Golden State Warriors. They play the Celtics tomorrow night. Then on Friday night, they go to Cleveland and play the Cavs. And on Sunday, they play the Thunder. They come home next Tuesday and play the Mavericks, which is then followed up by a game the following Friday against the Memphis Grizzlies. And I bring the Memphis Grizzlies up simply to say they are running something sort of similar from a strategic standpoint, where they are going deep into their bench. When Scottie Pippen Jr. can reliably come into a game and average over 20 points a game for your team and you're comfortable with it, you know your bench is pretty deep in Memphis. At the end of the day, this next week and a half is really going to tell us just how good this actual Warriors team is. Now, we know the greatness of Steph Curry. We've seen it on display everywhere from a golf course to a NBA basketball court all the way to the Olympics in Paris this past summer. And certainly, I think with a fairly healthy Steve Kerr, as well as keeping all of those pieces healthy that I mentioned that actually make up, if you will, the fabulous 12 that the Golden State Warriors actually have, this team is absolutely for real. And as far as I'm concerned, the biggest surprise in the NBA to this point. All right, I want to know what your thoughts are, North America. Go ahead and drop in your comments when you have a chance for the NBA Rundown. I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.
This is Phoenix.